Hey guys, welcome back. It's Eternal Life Sentence, and I hope you guys all enjoyed my Doctor Who role-playing game review last week. But this week, it is back to the World of Darkness, and specifically Vampire. This week's video is part of a series that I'm hoping to start doing, and I like to call it Playing Your Sheet. And in it, I'm going to talk about some of the different things that you find on the character sheets for various World of Darkness games and how to incorporate them into roleplay and into a character, rather than just kind of skipping them over. This time, we're going to talk about an aspect of the Vampire the Masquerade character sheet that a lot of people don't think about, and that is the virtues. What do they mean for a character, for their relationship with the beast, and how should you roleplay high or low scores in each of them? So, we've got our Guide to the Sabbat here, which is one of my favorite Vampire the Masquerade supplements. And we've got our new filming location that I'm trying out to see if it's a little more comfortable than the edge of my bed where I've been filming before. And let's go. I'm going to start with courage. Courage is the universal virtue. Every vampire character has it, no matter what form of morality they follow. And courage is also the most self-explanatory. It's how brave your character is. When they encounter danger or anything like that, can they keep their head or do they run scared? Your storyteller is probably going to be calling for courage rolls anytime you run into fire, sunlight, true faith, and just anytime you run into something super freaky, like seeing a La Sombra use obtenebration for the first time, seeing some weirder thaumaturgy or necromancy powers, stuff like that. Courage is partially a personality trait, but it's also a representation of your character's relationship to the beast and how they do that. You see, the beast, the animal nature that lurks deep within each vampire, is always lurking just below the surface. It's always waiting to take over and force your character to be the predator that they are. This is stronger. This desire is stronger in the Bruja, which is what leads to their increased frenzy difficulties, and it's also stronger in low humanity vampires, which leads to a humanity 0 vampire, low humanity or path rating, which leads to a humanity 0 vampire entering Wassail, where the beast just completely takes over and they are now a mindless animal hunting, killing as they please. But most of the time, the vampire's main personality, so to speak, their main nature is what's at the forefront. The beast only has an easy time taking over in times in which the character is stressed or otherwise vulnerable. And when you're in danger is one of those, everyone has a fight or flight response. And when they're in danger, it's easy for the beast to try taking over and running and just forcing them to run like that. Like the explanation of the virtue itself, playing high and low courage is fairly simple. A character with high courage is going to be able to resist giving in to self-preservation urges in dangerous situations, while one with low courage is likely going to be a lot more focused on looking out for number one when the chips are down on the table. Okay, so that's the simplest aspect out of the way. Now we're going to talk about self-control and instinct. These represent your character's relationship to the other aspect of the beast, what I like to call the gimme-gimme aspect. This is the part of the beast that, when a vampire is annoyed or frustrated, is going to try and take over. Often, when intangible threats occur, things that threaten your ego or your happiness as opposed to your person. When a vampire, or a mortal for that matter, is in these situations, there's always this part of them, stronger for vampires, that's saying, just take what you want. Do it. Assert yourself, make yourself happy, screw the consequences. So for characters that are on paths that utilize self-control, this stat is representing their ability to avoid giving in to the beast in these situations, to avoid frenzying, to attack the source of their irritation. A character with high self-control is going to be able to move past these things. They also likely, even in non-beast related situations, have what we would characterize as good self-control. They probably could avoid taking that extra donut. Whereas a character with poor self-control, they might be impulsive. They also might be very egotistical and find that their desires are more important than the consequences or things that happen around them. So instinct, on the other hand, is less about resisting the desires of the beast and more about learning to work with them. So if you're on a path that uses instinct, such as the path of Cain or the path of Night, you actually cannot prevent an anger frenzy, although you can roll to prevent Rotschreck, which uses courage instead. But when it comes time to frenzy, you're going to frenzy. What you use your instinct rolls for instead is to ride the wave, as they call it. You can direct that frenzy, direct that power and energy and lack of inhibition to actually helping you get what you want rather than random violence and destruction. Characters who utilize instinct, especially characters with high instinct, are absolutely terrifying to deal with. Imagine a small child who has not yet learned to control their desires or their impulses and acts purely based on what they want. If they want it, they take it. If it makes them angry, they lash out. But this is not a small child. This is a likely quite powerful vampire with frightening powers and extreme toughness. And anything could set them off. So again, self-control is your ability to keep your beast in check. Instinct is your ability to make your beast work for you and to harmonize its desires with your own. If the other two virtues that we've talked about dealt with how you relate to the beast when it's trying to take over, the last 1/2 talk about what to do when that fails to happen, because inevitably you will let the beast take over at some point in your gameplay. Frenzies happen, Rotschreck happens, and how do you deal with the things that you have done in accordance with your bestial nature? Conscience is a measure of how connected your character is to the tenets of human morality and how well they can differentiate that from the needs of their beast. A character with high conscience is going to be able to see those moments where their darker nature took over, both in terms of the beast and in general. And they will feel regret for those moments, and they will be able to see what they have done, essentially. Whereas a character with low conscience will be able to rationalize what they did as inevitable or necessary, or will perhaps not even realize that they've done something wrong at all. Conviction, I've jokingly heard referred to as a lack of self-awareness, and that's not really accurate, but it's actually a pretty good place to start thinking about it. Conviction is a desire to integrate the beast's desires and your own, and integrate the beast with yourself. This is as opposed to instinct, which is about directing the beast towards what you want. This is more about integration. When the beast takes over, when you do something you would normally regret or wouldn't have done otherwise, you are able to just move on with your own life. A character with high conviction is honestly, I think, even scarier than a character with high instinct, not because they're out of control or seemingly out of control, but because they are 100% utterly incapable of remorse. You frenzy and kill your best friend? Time to get a new one. Even the deepest sins, the most horrible acts, can just get rationalized with a shit happens. And that's honestly kind of terrifying. Playing a character with an alternate virtue or virtues is a very heavy task, and for first-time players and even second or third-time players, I really recommend that you just skip it entirely. Once you are ready to venture down that road, I would suggest initially picking a path that has only one alternate virtue, that uses just self-control, just instinct, or just conviction, rather than trying to completely adapt to an alien mindset. That being said, really leaning into these and really exploring what they mean can be an amazing roleplay experience that you really can't get with other kinds of play in Vampire. Even if you stick with the more human virtues with self-control and with conscience, you can still get a lot of interesting insight into your character's psyche by thinking through how much they would have in each of these virtues relative to each other, and really how their mind works in that way. And thinking about their relationship to their vampiric state. A beast I am, lest a beast I become is the tagline for the system, but how they deal with that in their own mind is really what these virtues are getting at. Anyway, that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this somewhat shorter video. If you did, or if you didn't, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below or on Twitter @EternalRPGs. And also feel free to tell me about virtues and how you've used them in your games. Have you ever played a character using some alternate virtues? How do you think about conscience and self-control? I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.